welcome everyone to our bi-weekly webinar. This is our free webinar series hosted by myself, George Ozoude of Time Health Capital, and my partner, Adebayo Fasanya, Dr. Breathe Easy Capital. So we bring this to you every 2 weeks where we come on and just share our insights, our experiences. Also, we have guests that come on and share their knowledge and expertise in everything real asset investing, from multifamily to oil and gas to agriculture, medical office building. We really are excited about tonight's topic. We're going to talk about ways that we've leveraged our MDs and other, suggestions of ways to leverage your MD as you venture into the world of real assets, particularly in real estate. But a little bit about myself. We like to just remind everyone, and for all the new folks, who we are, what we do. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I'm based out of Houston, Texas. My specialty is in sports medicine, and I've been practicing for about going on 10 years this August. Started in the academic route, the community academic route with the University of Texas for about 7 years, then branched off and started my own private practice, which is a direct pay, all cash, no insurance private practice in Houston for the last 2.5 years. I also do some locums work on the side as well. I've been a real asset investor since 2016. I made my first investment into a surgery center and then went on to invest in over 25 deals as a limited partner. And I spread my portfolio across mostly multifamily, value add and development deals, but also agriculture, farmland, also in oil and gas type of deal called mineral rights. Also looking at multiple other types of deals to add to that portfolio, including business acquisitions as well. I started growing my own syndication company about 2 years ago. Since then, I've gone on to invest as a general partner in 4 deals, totaling approximately 1,000 doors of multifamily and about $75 million in assets under management. And so that's my background. I want to kick it to Bio just so he can introduce himself before we get started on tonight's topic.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, George. I'm Dr. Fasanya. I'm a pulmonary critical care physician. I'm based in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and originally from Nigeria. Actually, both of us are. And we've had quite a journey. My journey started in Canada during my undergraduate years. We do reassignment homes, which we still have the ability to do that over here, in which you basically put a down payment on a property, and before the construction finishes, it's like a new construction. Within the 2 years of being built or 1 year, you can reassign it to someone else. And through that, we made some decent amount of money. And then, of course, I went to medical school, took a break from that, but I just jump-started my thinking into real estate. During residency and fellowship, do some moonlighting and made some money, started investing as a limited partner in real estate syndication. And those are good times. Everything did well, so I was encouraged. In 2018, I bought my first 8 units. And after a few years, I figured out that I need to scale this. And the best way to scale it is through real estate syndication, because you have the economy of scale, you can hire professional management, and also it's actually, funny enough, less work to actually manage those bigger properties than the smaller ones. So I still keep some. So I still have 62 units of my own, personal ones. I have a self-storage of my own, but most of my portfolio is syndication at this point. So like George, I'm very diversified. I do have stocks, crypto, and all these other things, but about 60 to 70% of my portfolio is in real estate. And even in real estate, I'm diversified. So we have 5 self-storages, 3 office buildings. I have a boat storage. Actually, that was my own personal one. I invested in luxury senior living, and also, of course, oil and gas. And each one of those has its own benefit in terms of cash flow, taxes, and also equity. So even within multifamily, also diversified into different classes of assets, new construction, value add, deep value add. So, so that's our philosophy, to be basically try to be as diversified as possible. I'm also due into business acquisition. So we do have a DMA company. Currently, we have a car audio company, electrical company, and sign company with my partner. So we love to do all these deals. Many of them that we also introduce to investors, but most of them are personal deals on the business acquisition side. I also started my own private practice this January. So that was a big milestone for me because I've been W2 employee, and that was usually I'll probably say maybe 60 to 70% of my unhappiness was from lack of autonomy. Yes, you might call me a very difficult employee, but it's what it is. I like to lead and I like to own things of my own. So anyway, so far so good. So I'll swing it back to George.
Awesome. Yeah, really excited about this talk. As I said, this is going to be a kind of a discussion, just a sharing of our thoughts. We also invite questions, and that can happen anytime. We don't have to wait till the end. We have till the end of the hour or the top of the hour. You can leave your questions in the chat box. You can leave it. You can come off mute, raise your hand, and ask a question as well. There's so many ways MDs can get involved. I recall recently making a post on someone's Facebook post. I made a comment on their post about how just a few years ago, I thought I'd only be a surgeon and be a doctor. I never really realized I would be doing so much outside of just being in medicine. And for a while, I started to wonder how I can venture out of medicine and into the real estate investing world. I considered a bunch of other asset classes, but I felt as a busy surgeon, real estate was the slowest moving and made the most sense for me so I can keep an eye on things. And I started learning about the world of syndication, started learning about single family investing. I like the aspect of syndication where you can leverage a team, you can put together a team, and you can be a part of a team. Even as an LP, you are a part of a team, you're a capital member. And I really leaned into syndications, and I really started getting conflicted about how I can participate in different ways in syndication, because I do feel as a limited partner is one thing, it's more passive after you do your initial vetting. But as a general partner, there's several ways you can participate, and I had to learn about them. But I honestly,
some of this Dr. Breathe easy.
I never honestly felt like I can do all the roles of an operator. Sometimes I marvel at Bio, how he does so many of the GP general partner jobs. But I had come to learn that you can participate in different aspects of the general partnership. And so I want to mention that and talk about what skills we can use as doctors. And I know all of us might not be doctors here, but busy professionals, what skill sets that we've already learned that we can use and bring to some of these opportunities and potentially even start a different and additional career. One thing is a lot of us have gone through medical school or some kind of training where we had to introduce ourselves into a new environment and learn essentially a new language, the language of medicine. We had to learn new concepts, new ideas, new theories as we traverse through the medical training. And I've found that real estate and real asset investing is very similar. So one thing right out the gate that I think we can leverage is our ability to sit down in one place and kind of quiet our minds to just understand and learn new languages, learn new industries, learn new sectors. That's what we did when we went into medicine. I remember teaching anatomy, and it's literally like learning Latin. And the business side is the same thing. I had to look up terms and concepts, but they're not complex. Some of them can be, but the majority of it is not complex topics. There are concepts that are easy to learn, and they just may seem unfamiliar just because they have their jargon. But I recommend a website like Investopedia. Great website that simplifies and breaks down concepts within this real asset investing space. I recommend Bigger Pockets. They also have a great way of explaining at an entry level these concepts and these terminologies that are so important when you are an investor. Bio, do you have any kind of thought about that? Is that something that you experienced too, or?
Yes, I did. At first, especially syndication, the first time I heard about it, of course, you think about private equity. You're like, oh man, these are people on the Wall Street. These are like the big people that there's no way to get into that field. But the more you start to research, and you find out that being a physician, we already have the like ability, like you said, we already have the right. We have the ability to sit, read, study, and also the brain too, the average IQ. So we have the ability to do. And for me, I took it as a personal challenge to be like, okay, you know what? Can I succeed in something else? Yes, medicine is cool, and over time as I got better and improve, it's very rewarding. And I think it actually also decreases your time in terms of there's something else to focus your energy on apart from just seeing patients. So for me, I derive more energy in the actual learning. So for me, with the route I took, actually I started the blog. That was my first thing. I started the blog and like in fellowship, I was, but the more I tried to read, then I tried to write like a summary of a book. For example, if I read a book, Seven Habits of Highly Successful People, then I would have to summarize it. So they helped me read more books because then people comment on the book. I have to defend myself sometimes online. So that's, so basically there's no other way around it. You have to educate yourself. And we have the ability to do so. Yes, it might look a lot at first, but just keep reading, keep learning. And then suddenly, of course, there's still something to learn even after 30 years. You'll still be 75 years old and you'll still be like, man, I wish I knew this one. So, but
So, Bio, you're also a mathematician by training, right? So you
yeah, my background was mathematics, and everybody always say, "Oh, what mathematics degree is gonna do for you?" And I always just laugh now. I always think the same thing too. Oh, I'm gonna just end up being a lecturer or something. But hey,
and
so it worked
so
out.
in a lot of these deals, like assessing them, analyzing them, it
Yep.
requires like these computational skills. And I honestly feel as an MD, that's also part of our skill set, right? We look at a lot of evidence-based decision making in our clinic day to day or in the surgery and operating room day to day. So those are skills that I found are very useful. We look at line charts and bar graphs, and those things show up when you're assessing macroeconomic trends or looking at an underwriting spreadsheet for a deal that you're considering. And the math is not that complex. And I love that Bio has a mathematics background because he's probably seen very complex numbers, right? And a lot of us have trained and gone through some, courses where we had to like memorize some complex, equations and stuff like that. But the math involved in real assets and syndications and investing and real estate investing. Wow, can you speak to that, comparing and contrasting, like the complexity? What have you found?
Some of them might be complex, right? Like IRR, right? We're still dealing with like that to avoid even talking about it. That's how bad it could be. The basic things like cash on cash return, the cap rate, those are basic calculations that you can actually just use your calculator. And now it becomes so much easier now. I remember as like 2018, I still had to do many of the underwriting by Excel spreadsheet. But now there's so many underwriting tools that you can use. I will still advise you to still know some of how to analyze numbers, look at patterns to understand that when things is off, because it's jargon in, jargon out with many of these underwriting, right? If you make a mistake somewhere with your Excel sheet, then the whole number looks off, but you have to be able to understand it. So yes, it's absolutely, I won't even call it mathematics, to be honest with you. But I think analytical skills that you develop by doing some of the math courses helps you overall, and statistics, right? But it's not something that, even if you're like a C student in maths, you'll still be able to do the calculations.
And that right there gives you an opportunity to potentially be on a general partnership team because they sometimes need folks who underwrite as part of the general partnership, or the ability to analyze deals and look at macroeconomic trends and understand when a deal might be a good deal or a bad deal. That also is valuable as an acquisitions member on a general partnership team. And obviously, as a limited partner, you want to be able to some degree, do these things, analyze macroeconomics, look at the underwriting that the general partner is presenting to you and inviting you, offering you an investment opportunity. So you can actually tap into those skills that you already have and have already developed as a limited partner when you're assessing these deals. It makes you a better investor, even as a limited partner. Chukudi has a question. You can come off mute.
Yeah, thank you, George and Bayo, for giving this opportunity really to educate people, because I think the process of getting into the real estate starts with education, knowing the right resources to use, and actually seeing people that belong to the same class, people like you and me. So when we see doctors do this, it encourages us to know that you can do this. When you look from outside, you think, oh, this is actually meant for Wall Street people, and that you have to have any special skills to do that. But it's not really. If you apply yourself, just the way we went through medical school, if you apply ourselves to anything, actually, because in the medical training, we have actually prepared us for such a rigorous thing that if you're able to survive medical school, most things will be easy. You just have to dedicate even 1/3 of what we do in medical school. So it is actually wonderful that we see the likes of you and Bayo that is able to really finally combine these things and able to get results. The question I have is, like, for me, math is not the why I went into medicine. Is math is not my wonderful forte. But right now we know that we have been able to leverage a lot with AI. So I was wondering that, do we have any resources that we can use, using AI to help you to do the analysis? Because once you get into a deal, and if you're not able to calculate that analyze the deal very well, you're more likely to make mistakes. And when you have losses, it discourages you, and that becomes a dead end for anybody that is getting into it. My question is, do we have any of these AI softwares that will be able to analyze deals and tell you quite a lot, to advise you in a way to guide you as a way to invest? Thank you.
I'll start. I don't know of any right now. And also AI, I know GPT and the rest are doing great jobs. We use a lot of AI in our advertisement and all the social media and things we do. But I would say nothing can substitute you knowing how to do the deal analysis yourself. That's just me. I might be old school. I think you still need to, right? No matter what role you end up being in at the end. Like right now, I'm in the CEO role. I actually have people that do underwriting for me, right? We have underwriters overseas. We tell them what are the assumptions. We find and then they do the initial typing in things, and then we then look at the actual analysis at the end. So you still need to learn. So I still think it's good to go into some form of underwriting class. You can take a course online, at least just to get an idea. But then, even if you use AI, because if the AI is wrong, then it will be wrong all the way. That's just my own opinion about it. And so right now we leverage people. So before I used to do everything myself, I will find it. I talk to brokers, get the deal, then analyze the deal, and I will spend hours and hours till midnight and 2 a.m. in the morning, and then do due diligence of the deal. Of course, I don't have money to hire people, but over time, then you start getting rid of some of the parts that it's not your forte. So then you'll be like, okay, fine. I don't really like the underwriting, or I'm not really that great at underwriting, but I do understand it. You have to understand every part of the business, regardless, of any business you do. But then you start outsourcing ones that you don't really want to do, and focus on the ones that you're really good at or you want to do. That's my final answer. Is there might be. I don't have the knowledge right now, or I'm not sure there will be some. Obviously, AI is gonna get better and better. But will I trust AI at this point in the game to analyze, and I will go with what the AI says? The answer is probably no.
So I can share, I also don't know specific resources, but I do remember a call that one of our colleagues, who's also a physician investor, held last year in Nkem and Ziama. She held a webinar with essentially a AI and marketing specialist. And I remember specifically, she said AI will touch every part of real estate, even the underwriting part. And so from the marketing to the deal acquisitions, to every section of the process. But I agree, it's not going to replace. It probably is going to be best used as a supplement. I'm happy to share with you and anyone else who's interested. After the call, I'll share that webinar that was given. It was a great webinar where there were a lot of just ideas around how to incorporate AI into investing.
That was a great one. We used it on our LinkedIn, and it's been working really great. You can see it on her LinkedIn too, how it's blowing up to generate like topics to talk about and things like that. Yeah, you augment yourself with AI right now, at least at this point. Replacement, maybe 10 years, I'm not sure.
Okay, I want to talk about taxes and how MDs can leverage having an MD, but this is like an indirect way, but I think it's important. And many people may already know, but there's a way for earned income of workers, which are doctors, whether it's W-2 or 1099, can leverage the rep's status by having a spouse who has a full-time, or not a full-time job, but maybe a part-time job, or just focuses on real estate. There's certain thresholds that you can reach to qualify for a real estate professional rep status. And if you can have a spouse that meets that threshold, jointly you can shield a lot of the earned income that gets generated as an MD or any other W-2 busy professional. And so I think this is a powerful tool. Bayo can speak to this personally. I can't yet, but Bayo, please speak on this powerful strategy.
So,
MD.
yeah, I know many people here probably already do so. So for most investors as limited partners, you can only do passive to passive, right? Because you get some return, some depreciation. And some of them were great, especially in the past 2 years. We're getting like 90%, 100%, of depreciation on the money you put in. But right now, most people will not be able to use it immediately. You can use it against the return on that investment later. But so if, as physician, some still able to say they were able to achieve a real estate professional status by saying, oh, I work as an hospitalist. I do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. My 2 weeks off, I'm doing real estate. But what you run into is that you have to work more hours in real estate, and they want you to do about 750 hours. So that's the minimum requirement, 750 hours in real estate in a year. And you have to be material participation. You have to absolutely participate in it or show evidence that you participate. If you're doing a flip, construction, or like analysis, you have to document your hours. So the way I've been able to get around that is my wife, she's a nurse, and we basically put pen and paper down and, okay, look, you're making what, between $60,000 to $80,000 as a nurse. And then we have quite a good portfolio of real estate. And so after running the numbers, it makes sense. And also plus other reasons, right, that she stays home. For whatever reason, your partner, it could be husband or wife, stays home, or a part-time job that doesn't pay as much, then they can be the real estate professional. They just have to have enough hours to document. And the more properties you have, the less likely for you to be questioned about. Okay, and it's not something that you have to send to the IRS to say. You don't have to apply for anything to get the status. You just have to claim it and say, I've done this. But if you're audited, you have to make sure you have all your documentations just in case. So, and then of course talk to your CPA and tax professionals to make sure. So yeah, so that's usually what you want to do. So there are some investors that have come to me and I ask that question, and they're like, yeah, my wife stays home or my husband stays home with kids. And I'm like, this is an opportunity. You need to do a joint venture deal or buy some deals of your own. And then even if you do syndication, you'll be able to still add it under the same LLC. And the way I did mine was also have an LLC that is between me and my wife is the manager. So basically, you have to say she's the manager of it. So I'm the investor advisor. So that allows her to do the management of day-to-day activities, and that's able to prove enough that all of that portfolio, that she's basically managing it, and she has, 750 hours.
Yeah. It's a very high-powered strategy, high-powered tax strategy. And taxes are easily most people's number one expense over their lifetime.
Absolutely.
And then the double whammy is, as high income earners, Henrys, right? High earners, not rich yet.
Yes.
Physicians are usually in the worst tax bracket. We make just enough to get taxed at the highest rates. And so any strategy that's going to save you on taxes is well worth considering. So great one. Okay. So now I want to talk about other roles as a general partner, specifically.
May I ask a question?
Yes, please, Chris, go ahead.
So about the strategy you talked about, Dr. Fasanya,
Yeah.
if you do a joint venture with a non-partner, as in not a wife, a husband, would that also count?
No, because the tax advantage comes from you filing married jointly. So it's just a way. That's one of the few things about marriage is you're counted as one. The joint venture, though, putting that LLC in a joint venture, because joint venture by nature, you're a general partner. Everybody in a joint venture is a general partner by nature. You automatically get that ability to use it. Of course, you're going to have a role in JV. In JV, you're supposed to have a role, like your LLC is supposed to have a role to say, you're in charge of this. Just that, whatever you're in charge of, just have to be 750 hours. But then, but to get the actual tax advantage, it has to be like a marriage partner. I'm not even sure if you can get it by just a regular partner, like non-married, common law. I'm not sure about that, actually. That might be a great strategy if that's possible.
That sounds like a check with your attorney on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so diving in more to how to play a role in a general partnership, leveraging your MD. One thing I realized as I did 20 plus LPs and started to want to play on the GP side is, how am I going to bring value? What can I do? Can I find deals? Do I have enough time for that? Can I underwrite deals? Do I have a mathematician brain? Can I raise capital? Do I have enough capital by myself? Or can I pool capital from other investors if I develop a brand? Can I bring my balance sheet to the general partnership? Because in order to obtain a loan for many of these loan products, the team has to demonstrate that they have the liquidity and the net worth to justify giving large amounts of loan, of debt. And so I think these are ways that a physician can play a role. One thing that's probably the most powerful thing you have outside of your own intellectual capital is your social capital, your ability to connect with so many people over the course of your training. Think about it, from medical school all the way to your current status, you've been interacting with thousands of people across different sectors. So not just physicians, but also nurses, pharmacists, therapists, industry representatives. You can leverage that. People are interested in someone who has a network, and you can see that's just the effect of social media. People are capitalizing and building wealth based off their social capital, their network. And so this is one way you can get involved as an MD. You can create communities. It can be small, they can be big. You can host online webinars, case in point. You can host in-person meetups. You can have blogs, newsletters, anything that plants a flag in the ground and attracts people, like-minded people. And then this is actually very powerful. I've done deals where I've seen a capital raising group bring the majority of the down payment into a syndication deal, and they were able to command 50% or more of the equity in that deal, just because they were able to bring such a fundamental piece of the whole project, which is the capital. So you can actually play this role in a very clear-cut way that's very compliant, because there are some SEC rules, and so there's caveats to that. But physicians have some of the biggest networks ever. You're seeing patients daily. Sometimes Biomay even can speak to this. Are some of your patients even your investors or colleagues or people that you just meet through on a day-to-day basis? You start forming these relationships and these connections, and that can mean a lot in the long run.
Try to avoid patience. However, some of them add you on Facebook without you even knowing it. And if they invest in your deal, obviously it's free. If I was to see, it's free country. Colleagues for sure. What we have the most is the network, right? As physicians, I do have multiple colleagues that invest. And also being a physician itself actually allows you to get into places. I used to wonder that what if I started in private equity since I was like 18 or 20? Will I be farther along? And my answer at the end is probably not. Probably this pathway is the best pathway because you can call a bank and be like, I want to talk to your vice president. I'm Dr. This. Or you want to, so basically, I feel like being a doctor actually get me to the higher ups very easily in places where, that I go. So when I live by being a doctor, even more than being a syndicator, funny enough. So I think, so you can definitely leverage that ability to meet people, go to family offices, go to businesses, talk to them, apart from just your colleagues also. But yeah, definitely, if you're passionate about something, you don't need to sell to them directly. If you're passionate about it, just talk about it, what you do. What else do you do? Everyone's always interested in hearing what else you do outside of medicine. If it's interesting enough, they're like, oh, you know what? Let me check. So, yeah, I think it's a powerful tool.
Absolutely. And then, yep.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask about something. This is because I spent a reasonable time in the UK, and it was actually during those periods, I was able to leverage with a couple of doctors. I think we had about 10 doctors that were able to put capital together. And I think we had almost £500,000 at the time. And it gave us a lot of bargaining power, a lot of leveraging power to get into the property business. But here, maybe I've been very busy. I've not been able to do that. But if you have such a rich asset where you're able to aggregate funds together, how would that be useful in making deals into some of these real estates? How can you use that particular resource to be able to give you a better advantage in getting deals?
So there's the side of acquiring the deals, and then there's once you have a deal, the returns. And I think on the second point, if you bring enough capital to the deal, you can control your terms. And so a good example is an LP versus what we call fund of funds. And this is where you have one main or a main group that raises capital and brings a bigger check, but they still invest on the LP side. So they're not general partners necessarily, but they bring such a big check to the deal. It makes life easier for the general partner because they have to go to less people to raise more money. And so they're willing to give better terms. So instead of maybe an 8% return per year on that deal for cash flow, you can ask for 9% or 10%. So this is a way to leverage your network as a group. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yes, that's exactly that's exactly answered the right question.
That is very common.
Like the current deal we have right now, people that it's a 70-30 split. So that's another place where you can negotiate. And that might actually be better for you on the long run is, let's say it's a 70-30 split, but you can talk to the GP and be like, look, I have $2 million, okay? The check is right here in my hand. But for me to give you that with a bunch of investors that put this money together, or just your own money too, it doesn't matter. I want 75-25, or I want 80-20 split.
Yep.
Okay? So then it's everything. That's why I love capitalism. Everything is negotiation. So I think we end up at 75-25 in this particular deal. That's a general rule. So you might be able to, and we do that mainly because you might also have some expenses too, right? Putting all this together, you're going to get the K1 as one check, which means you now have to pay a CPA to break the K1 into 10 pieces among all your 10 investors now, just to compensate for that. And also, you do the work of talking to them, doing the investor relations, you deserve a little bit of compensation. So depending on what you do, another way is acquisition fee. So for most deals, you do get, between 1 to 3.5% is an acquisition fee. So which the GP charges on the acquisition of the property. There's also an exit fee, which, that one, nobody ever argues about that one, because if you do so well, you return all the double investors' money, then you take like a 1% or 2% or so. So all of this can also be negotiated. So you can be like, you're raising $5 million for this deal. If I bring 50% of the money you're raising, I want 50% of the acquisition fees. Of course, they might say no. Hey, so basically, money makes the world goes around. So you have the money, you have the cash is king, essentially. So yeah, so that's how usually, we do it, when we negotiate out there, and also when I'm an operator, how we negotiate with people that are capital partners.
And I got to really say this quickly before we get to Ronnie's question. I see your hand, but there are some legal caveats to this that must be appreciated. You want to check if you're going to think about doing this, it's totally okay, but you want to check with an SEC lawyer who specifically specializes in this area. And that goes back to what Bio says. There may be some costs that you have to incur if you choose to pool capital like this and invest. You can't just do it without any regard and just put money together. There are SEC rules to keep in mind. And I want to talk about the next way to get around that as an MD. But first, Ronnie's question.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. George, and thank you, Bio. I know I've had a conversation with you guys, and yeah, thank you for the time. My question goes to both of you. So, still a resident, just finishing residency, about to start fellowship. And again, I thank you, Dr. George, for the help. My question is, for someone like myself with what we call small money, how best would I plan in order to get into the marketplace? Are there things that you wish you would have done if at all you're in like a position like myself, just to prepare for the market? Thank you.
And I wish, and I commend you, congratulations on all the success in the next journey, step in the journey. But I remember when I was a resident, I wish I devoted even 1% of time and bandwidth to just learning. Honestly, just learning, because yes, you're limited on the capital side, on the financial capital side, but you can start by self-learning. Most people start self-learning anyway. So if you can start reprioritizing different times in your day to listen to a podcast, listen to a YouTube channel, go to a meetup in your area, in your city, or even outside of your city. If you have a free Saturday, go drive a few hours outside of the city limits if you need to go to a meetup, and just start networking and start learning. And those you can definitely do. I wish I did that as a trainee.
And just a quick clarification, when you say meetup, do you meet like another investor meetup?
Yes, exactly. And there'll be different meetups for all the different types of asset classes that you're interested in. If you want multifamily, single family, oil and gas, there's going to be a meetup for it.
You're already coming to this one, right? You're already coming to the Zoom meetings, but there's something to be said about shaking people's hands and looking at them eye to eye. So Google your area. I'm sure there will be something. You'll be surprised. There'll be like a flipping group, wholesaling group. So just go, share. Also, Bigger Pockets. Actually, I met some people through Bigger Pockets. When I was done in there digesting that during residency, just reading up about that. And then there will be some time, be like, oh, at that time I was in a bigger city. So I was in New Jersey during residency, and I was in Pittsburgh. So there's such a big population that we were able to find some people, even in the group, to be like, oh, we're meeting for tea or something. And you all meet up and just chat about real estate. So I think there's opportunities for that for sure. So I won't rush things. I think you can focus on education and also focus on your basics. So you still should, if your loan have such a high interest, you should focus on paying those loans, maximizing your Roth IRA, and also get at least the match for your 401k at whatever job you decide to go, and also get emergency funds, right? So you want to get the basics down, because mistakes some people will make is just jump too fast into the investment. Yes, you're going to look back, man, I should have done this. Everybody wish they did invested 5 years ago, but it's going to be 10 years time. you're going to look back again and be like, I'm still far off. So like George says, I'm going to echo that. Focus on education. Get the free content first. If you feel like you need the course, there's so many courses out there, some of them real, some of them are not real. Try to get a recommendation from other people and say, okay, which courses did you take? And then you can try some of them. I did multiple courses. 50% of them were useless, but maybe not entirely useless. I learned something, but maybe you thought you're going to learn something better. But either way, I feel like overall part of my journey to reach where I am today.
Okay, I wanted to quickly talk about the point that was brought up before. I made a point about just being SEC compliant. So you can't just raise capital and invest into a syndication or really any kind of deal. You can't just be a capital partner unless you're an LP, like solo LP. And ways to get around this, leveraging your MD, is to do at least one other thing on the GP side, a general partnership. And there's something called a key principal. That's a loan guarantor. And it's someone who brings the value of their net worth or their liquidity to the deal in order to obtain the loan product. And this is an aggregate type of thing. Everyone who's on the GP, say you have 4 GPs and the loan is X amount, they're going to need to show that same amount in liquidity and net worth in order to obtain that loan. And so it's not just on one person, but it's on all 4 of them as a collective. And so there are operators out there who are interested in bringing on what's called a KP. And since some physicians who are maybe mid-career, late career, maybe even some lucky ones early career, they have accumulated a net worth and a liquidity that they can actually be considered a KP. And this is a way to get in the deal. You can actually increase the amount of equity that you get in the deal. Bio, would you say 5 to 10% is the industry standard for a KP, a loan guarantor? And not only do you get that additional equity as for bringing that liquidity, but you satisfy the rule of having at least 2 jobs on the general partnership side. Therefore, you don't have any SEC risks just from raising capital. So you can still raise capital and be a KP, and you're golden. And so this is another way for physicians to leverage what they have. And many times it's their net worth. Any thoughts on that, Bio?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to just open it up just to show this very quickly. I'm going to share the screen and just look at show you the basic breakdown that we use. This is from Michael Blank's. We do have different types, but this is one of our deals. So for real estate education, so you have this, so there's 70-30 split already, right? And that 70% goes to the limited partner, which are the investors. 30% go to general partner. Now that 30% that the general partner, you expand it to 100% now. I hope the non-math people are getting it. So now you expand it. So now out of that general partner portion of that pot, so you also divide it based on what you do. Okay. So for example, if what you do is sourcing, finding the deal, working through the contract, and do due diligence, if you do all of this together, you get 20% of the GP. That's the one we follow. So, but maybe you do sourcing and contract, and then we all decide between ourselves, like, okay, fine, get 50. Then the other one get 50, 10-10. So that's one. Risk capital, which you can also do. There are some deals that require someone to bring in risk capital. Basically, you bring the risk capital into the deal, and then once the deal closes, you get back your capital back.
And can you define risk capital real quick?
Yeah, so basically, is the earnest money down. Oftentimes, when we send the offer letter for a deal, we offer 1%, 2%, sometimes 3% of the acquisition cost as earnest money down, which means, yes, money we're willing to put down to improve our odds of getting this deal. And if everything works out, and if we pull out of this deal because of our own fault, then oftentimes you will not be able to get that money back. So there's different deals you have to make on that. So some people, most of the time for us, we do it ourselves, but we also not doing like $200 million deals yet. But eventually it's going to reach a point in time where we might need the risk capital or some other deals that needs maybe half of it. So you can come in there, and if you like the deal, you analyze it, it looks good, you can come in and be like, okay, I take this 7.5% because I risk some of, the deal. And then this might actually be a very good return because you retain that percentage throughout the end of the deal, but you get your money back after the acquisition is over. But of course, you have the chance of losing your money. So, and then raising capital, you say about 30%. Balance sheet guarantor, back to the question, is about 20%. So, yeah, so, if you divide it, in the total deal, right? If you convert, so that's 9, so about 6% or so, right, of the total deal, So, yeah, so I say 5 to 6% is a reasonable one. So, yes, you can just be a rich person with good net worth, and you can be a balance sheet guarantor as your only thing that you do in real estate. I know people like that.
Yep, professional KPs, they call them.
Professional KPs. I have a guy,
business model.
He has like $1 million, and then he's been using it, and so far so good. So that's just all I'm gonna say in terms of what are the things you could do.
It's wonderful. We have a question in the chat. So Trudy asked, so what about the intersection between real estate and insurance business? Trudy, I'd love to understand fully the question. If you can come off mute and ask, I'm not sure I fully grasp. Bio, did you gather what he was asking?
Okay, George, thank you so much. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I actually want to commend you and your colleague for pulling this off. It's a conversation we should have more often because most times, most of our colleagues have a kind of a very tall barrier to think outside the box. So I just want to commend you guys. So my question is to various services out there in the insurance industry that a couple of doctors are also into, specifically like the indexed annuity, the index life insurance, the business side, not just getting the policy. And I know a couple of them that are into that aspect are also into real estate. So do you guys also have a portfolio in such insurance outfits? And what will you advise in that regards? Thank you.
That one's beyond me. Yep. That's not my expertise. But we invite anyone in the chat who has expertise on it. I see Brad. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, okay, Brad knows. Okay.
Okay. I think what you're seeing is there's a product out there called Index Universal Life. And sometimes you see it on YouTube, infinite banking, family banking, that kind of stuff. But it's just a product out there. The only way I like it is if it's max funded. So the words you're going to want to look up are max funded, index, universal life. But basically you just treat it like an asset. It's another pot to put some cash into. I would just look into it, and if it makes sense, if you've got extra money to put money into it, think about putting $700 or $1,000 a month into this thing. In 7 years, you'll thank me. It's got a lot of benefits, a lot of living benefits. You're able to actually, after you get it built up, just like an asset, just like a house, you've got to fund it. But once it's there, it's going to be earning money for you. You can access the money in the form of a loan, and you get to pick. You can invest in real estate with it. You can do anything you want with it. It's your money. But when you do that, I would make sure that you're an honest banker and make sure you repay that loan. You don't have to, but you're going to lose all that, what you've built up, if you don't repay that loan. But anyway, that's my spiel. I like it. It's a good product. It's very similar to a Roth IRA. And I say that with tax benefits. Like later in life, taxes are going to be higher. That's what I'm betting on. I'm sure all of you guys are betting on higher taxes are coming. That's why they say do the Roth, not the traditional. Anyways, very similar. And you're not attached to the market. The thing will not lose value. So that's the great thing about it. You do get to benefit in the market, the insurance company goes out and purchases options. So that's how that works. When times are good, you're going to see that same benefit or a benefit in the market. But just go out shopping. I sell the product in Arkansas, but I'm really not trying to sell any of you guys, but it's my favorite product. It's hard for me to get somebody that has the money and funds and the vision to appreciate it, but I'm a big fan and I'm doing it for me and my family.
If you could let me
Thank you so
come in
much.
here.
That's pretty clear. Very clear. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, let me just add a quick comment to that because I guess I have seen part of both wars on most of both wars. Coincidentally, I was having this conversation about 2 hours ago with Bayo. Yeah, insurance products are good, but a lot of things are involved. I'm not going to speak much on that because of time, but the only thing I would say here, how good that policy favors you depends largely on two factors, two heavy factors. Time, when it was started, which is also a function of how old you are when the policy was started, but most importantly, how it is structured. Unfortunately, a lot of people are into this, and then they don't really understand some of the so-called advisors or professionals. They don't really understand the nitty-gritty of it. And at the end of the day, most policies that are sold are structured to maximize benefit or commission by the sellers, which compromises whatever benefits is intended for the insured. I am a living example to that. So I have done all that. My policy is more than 10 years old, and I have tried other options. So I would say before you jump into any, look very closely before you leave and insist on getting policies that will be structured to maximally benefit you and achieve your purpose. How you do that depends on how much knowledge you have about it. So you may want to go read more about it, listen and hear more about it, and get informed. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And now that when Bradley talked about it, and this is a common topic in the white put investor community, and the stance, everybody has different stance, is to separate your investments and your insurance, especially life insurance. However, of course, everyone is and do whatever they feel is best for them and based on their situations and talking to their tax advisor. But I find better success investing separately and having a term life insurance because I get higher return, better flexibility, and the infinite banking thing they talk about, I have $1 million line of credit revolving that I could use. So I could infinite bank myself. So I'm not sure. So anyway, so all of the advantages to me did not work, but that's just my own personal situation.
We're at 7:04, but I absolutely want to talk about Trisha's comment to me, specifically about doctors' loans. I think this is something that probably there are a few people on here that can speak to this even more with more expertise. I haven't used it myself. I definitely considered using it when I first started real estate investing. I considered buying 1 to 2 single-family homes per year using the physician's loan, which should give you almost no percent down or 5% down. So you can really leverage your MD. Folks will give you that much loan to value and allow you to access more properties in a shorter amount of time. I think you can get up to 10 of them before you're maxed out, but that's a gray area if I remember correctly. I used to look at this stuff like 7 years ago. But also keep in mind, loan to value is something that you have to be very aware of. It's not necessarily a great thing to be over leveraged. That's what's hurting a lot of multifamily investors right now. They were over leveraged mixed with a couple of other factors that really blew their plan up. But if there's anyone here, Bayo may have some other knowledge about the physician's loan, but I do think that could be a strategy to use to build a small portfolio of 1 to 4 units. Remember, multifamily or small multifamily is considered a residential loan, a primary loan.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to add, that it has to be a smaller property, preferably a single family, even if you try to do a duplex, because the reason why you're getting the doctor's loan is for you to find a place to live. So they would suspect you. Another issue is if you buy it and you convert it to a rental property, sometimes it could violate some of the bank kind of contract. And most bank will not enforce it, but it's possible that they do. That basically, suddenly you're not living in the property because it's supposed to be, so just look at the kind of contract you're getting. I used it for my own first house I bought, and it was beautiful. Pay zero down, it was a very good market, right? It was 2018. So, and then we sold it, made 150,000, 200,000 from it when we, built a new house. So look, if you have done multiple of those, you could do 5 and make $1 million. It's possible. But like George said, not just the LTV of each property, your debt to income ratio, you need to know that. So if you have 10 of those, if something happens, would you be able to save all of them? You also remember, you have to time the market properly for this to work. So because we have 0% down, I know some people that are upside down because you have no equity, right? So you bought a house for 400K, you have 0% down. The market goes down by 10%. You have to sell the property. So now you have to pay the bank extra 10%, $40,000 extra now to exit that deal. So you could be, so we always talk about the positives of everything. Just know that it could go either way. If you're upside down in it, there's no equity to shock you at all, right? So some of the, what gives me confidence in some of my real estate is the fact that if I put 20% down, so even if worst case scenario, even if you go by 20% down, I'm still going to be able to go out by just losing just my down payment at the time. But if all of them go upside down, and then you have to come up with all that money for many of them to exit, you might not be able to do so. And just make sure, but then that's another problem. You have to then convert them into an LLC, right? Remove them from your name. So if your loan is in your name and you're trying to change the deed to your LLC, that also breaks the contract of the bank. Most will not enforce it, but it's something that they can enforce at any time to say, we borrowed you the money. Why is ABC LLC owning this property now? Even though you own the LLC, but then that removed the risk from you in some way. So anyway, so there's a lot of, if you want to talk more about this particular situation, I've seen the experience on both sides, from investors, mentees. And so I personally believe that you should, if you cannot afford your first few properties, you probably shouldn't, because you're still learning at the time. I did get line of credit to get my first 8 units. I might be an hypocrite. However, I do have such a high income. So you just have to adjust your risk properly, because you're probably going to lose money in your first few deals you do yourself. These are facts.
Chukwudi has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about this FHA loan, because I know that the time I wanted to get my first house, that was, they gave that option. You look at it, it's very tempting. But if you look at the whole contract, nothing comes for free in America. Nothing comes so easy. When you look at it, yes, you're putting no money down. But when you look at the insurance on that, is super high. Then there's another term they use then. It ended up being that you probably might be paying close to $500 to $700 more every month. It is very convenient. But maybe for starters, I don't know whether that is actually, you guys know better, but I don't know whether that's actually a very good way to start. It's always good to have a little bit of, as low as 5% at least down. That helps you with the overall interest rate you have on a house. That's my own experience, because I compared it when you put 5 to 10% down as against doing that FHA loan. It ended up being like a lot more in terms of the total amount you're paying in that house. It's something to look into before dipping into it. That's what I have to add about that. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I think I agree. I'd rather have a little bit of equity in the deal. I think that PMI interest is not a factor for the physician loan, but it is for the FHA loan, and that absolutely can impact the overall underwriting. You do have to pay some PMI on that. Bradley, you have your hand up? Oh.
Yes, I just wanted to add, there's a kind of a golden rule in real estate. If you don't have 20% down, maybe don't do it. Just think about it. Maybe you don't
I
have the
agree.
funding.
I can say that I had a choice between a doctor's loan for my first home and paying 20% down, and I ended up putting 20% down. This was like 7 years ago, and it just made, when I looked at it all, it just made more sense for me to put that 20% down. And some people call me crazy for that, but I just feel better having equity.
Yeah, that's another thing. For investment, you have to understand your risk appetite and also what makes you sleep at night. There's no point for you to be chasing returns and then you can't sleep at night. So, so basically, also depends on your age, different factors on what also determines. I won't be over leveraging in your late 50s, early 60s, right? If you're just, you're making $1 million a year and you feel like you want to be, slightly leveraged, you could try that, but then you can lose your job. And then you just have to basically assess your risk appetite and know that you're comfortable with what you're doing. I have a 33 units in Tulsa that I got it was a 15%. That's just me trying to be slightly edgy. 15% down. But even that
5-0
yes.
or 1-5?
1-5. 1-5. So, but still, I noticed that still your equity at the end will be better, but your cash flow will be lower. Yep. Significantly.
There's trade-offs, and on the other side, you'll be able to potentially do a cash out refinance easier if you have more equity. But that goes back to timing. If the market's down anyway, you're not going to be able to do the cash out refi. So there's always these trade-offs on either side of the equation.
Yeah, but I say for beginners, don't try to cut corners. Just do get your 20% because you're more likely to make mistakes anyways. And it's worse when you make mistakes when you don't have any landing, no soft grants, no soft landing at all. So that's my opinion.
All right, I'm going to check the chat. If anyone has any questions, any more questions, otherwise we will be respectful of folks' time. I think this was a great discussion and conversation. There's probably stuff we didn't even touch on, but we hope the content we did touch on is definitely helpful and valuable. We thank everyone for coming tonight. And like I said, we do this bi-weekly. So we'll have another episode in another 2 weeks. But until then, we want to wish everyone a good evening, and we will see you then.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you
everyone.
guys. Thank you.